At 9:17 a.m. on April 22, 1942, Lieutenant Commander Edward O'Hare walked through the front doors of the Grumman Aircraft Engineering Corporation factory in Bethpage, New York, carrying information that would change how America fought the Pacific War. O'Hare was 27 years old, had 7 confirmed kills, and was already a national hero. Just weeks earlier, he had single-handedly shot down 5 Japanese bombers threatening the USS Lexington, earning him the Medal of Honor. But he wasn't here for fame or celebration. He was here to fix a problem that could decide the fate of the Pacific, a problem of visibility, coordination, and survival. In early 1942, the U.S. Navy faced a terrifying new threat: the Japanese nighttime aerial attacks. The Imperial Navy's bombers would strike under the cover of darkness, leaving American pilots blind and helpless in the night sky. Radar was still primitive, communication unreliable, and navigation nearly impossible once the sun went down. The Navy needed a way to see and fight in the dark, and O'Hare had an idea that no one else dared to test. His proposal was simple but revolutionary: create a team of night fighters who could intercept Japanese planes under cover of darkness using modified radar-equipped aircraft. It sounded crazy, even suicidal. At that time, radar was still too large and unreliable to fit into a single-seat fighter plane. The technology belonged on destroyers, not in the cramped cockpit of a Wildcat or Hellcat. But O'Hare didn't believe in impossible. He approached Grumman engineers and laid out his vision: a twin-pilot system where one man would fly the plane and the other, a radar operator, would guide them through the night using an early airborne radar set. The engineers listened, skeptical but intrigued. They had seen O'Hare's results in daylight. The man was a living legend. But night combat was an entirely different battlefield, one filled with confusion and danger. Over the following weeks, O'Hare worked alongside Grumman's engineers and Navy specialists, experimenting with different configurations of the F-6F Hellcat. The aircraft would carry radar, additional instruments, and a second crewman squeezed behind the pilot's seat. The result was the birth of the U.S. Navy's first true night fighter. It wasn't perfect. The equipment was bulky, and the radar operator's seat was barely large enough for comfort. But it worked. O'Hare himself volunteered to lead the first night combat missions. He didn't want to send men into a fight he hadn't tested himself. By late 1943, his squadron, the Bat Team, was ready for action aboard the USS Enterprise. Their mission was dangerous: intercept Japanese bombers attacking American fleets at night. The pilots had to rely almost entirely on radar and radio communication, often flying blind through clouds and darkness. On November 26, 1943, O'Hare launched on a mission that would make history. His team, composed of a TBF Avenger radar plane and 2 Hellcat fighters, took off from the USS Enterprise to intercept incoming Japanese bombers near Tarawa. As the Avenger's radar picked up enemy contacts, O'Hare's Hellcat and his wingman moved into formation. They flew into complete darkness, guided only by the radar operator's voice. Moments later, radar blips turned into silhouettes of enemy aircraft. O'Hare fired first. Tracers ripped through the sky as his Hellcat tore into a Japanese Betty bomber. The night lit up with flames as the enemy plane exploded, falling into the sea. But seconds later, chaos erupted. In the darkness, American planes were nearly colliding, struggling to maintain formation. Radar interference made it impossible to tell friend from foe. The radio was filled with confusion, orders, and static. Somewhere in that confusion, a burst of gunfire streaked across O'Hare's path. His plane jolted, the engine sputtered, and within seconds, his Hellcat disappeared into the black Pacific night. He was never seen again. Search teams combed the waters through the night and the next day, but there was no trace, no wreckage, no parachute, no sign of O'Hare. The Navy listed him as missing in action, presumed dead. The loss of O'Hare sent shockwaves through the fleet. He had been a symbol of courage, a man who refused to back down even when the odds were impossible. His disappearance was both tragic and legendary, but his legacy lived on. The Bat Team concept he pioneered evolved into a full-scale program that would redefine naval air warfare. Within months, the Navy had developed new night fighting units equipped with advanced radar and specialized aircraft. These new night fighters became instrumental in protecting American fleets from Japanese bombers during late 1943 and 1944, giving the U.S. a decisive technological and tactical edge in the Pacific. Edward O'Hare's sacrifice had not been in vain. His willingness to take on the unknown paved the way for the future of air combat, where technology and courage combined to dominate the night skies. In honor of his heroism, the U.S. Navy named one of its most important training airfields after him, O'Hare Field, which later became known as Chicago O'Hare International Airport, one of the busiest in the world. Every traveler who passes through that airport today walks unknowingly through the legacy of a man who helped America see in the dark. Literally. His courage and innovation changed the course of aviation history forever. O'Hare's story remains one of those forgotten chapters of World War II, a tale not just of bravery, but of innovation born from desperation, when a single pilot's vision reshaped how nations fought wars. In the end, it wasn't just about one man's death or one mission's failure. It was about a transformation, the moment when America learned to fight at night, and the Navy evolved into a force capable of dominating every hour of battle. And though the Pacific claimed his body, O'Hare's spirit never sank. His name, etched into history and echoed in the roar of departing jets from Chicago's runways, continues to remind us that heroes don't fade, they inspire. The next time you walk through O'Hare Airport, pause for a second and remember the man behind the name. A young pilot who looked into the darkness of war and instead of fear, saw opportunity. He once said, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important." For Edward "Butch" O'Hare, that something was his country, and his courage still flies every night. In the years after World War II, O'Hare's name became synonymous with heroism and sacrifice. He was posthumously promoted to commander, and his Medal of Honor was displayed proudly by his family as a reminder of his courage. But for many who served with him, his true legacy wasn't the medal or even his kills in battle. It was his relentless pursuit of progress. O'Hare believed that bravery meant nothing without innovation. He constantly pushed for new ideas, new technology, and better coordination between men and machines. He was one of the first to see that wars of the future would be won, not just by courage, but by information and technology. The radar-guided combat tactics he pioneered became the foundation for modern air warfare strategies. Today, every modern fighter jet, from F-18s to stealth aircraft, relies on systems that trace their roots back to O'Hare's experiments. Even in space operations and drone warfare, the concept of synchronized human-machine teamwork echoes the night missions of the Bat Team. O'Hare's influence reached far beyond the Pacific and into the future itself. In 1945, when peace finally came, many of O'Hare's fellow pilots returned home haunted by the faces of those they'd lost. Yet they often said that O'Hare's fearlessness gave them strength, even when he was gone. They remembered his calm voice over the radio, guiding them through confusion and chaos. To them, he wasn't just a commander, he was a compass in the darkness. Chicago, his hometown, honored him with statues, schools, and memorials. But perhaps his most enduring tribute is the very airport that bears his name, a symbol of flight, progress, and resilience. Few passengers ever stop to think about the man behind the name on their boarding pass. Yet his story lives in every takeoff and landing, a silent salute to a hero who gave everything to help others see in the dark. It's a story of courage meeting innovation, of one man daring to dream beyond what the world thought possible. It's also a reminder that greatness often demands the ultimate price. The war in the Pacific eventually turned in favor of the Allies, with radar, night operations, and technological superiority playing crucial roles in their success. Each victory carried a piece of O'Hare's vision. When the Japanese surrendered in 1945, few remembered that the ability to strike and defend at night had once been considered impossible, until a young pilot from Chicago changed that forever. Even decades later, aviation historians still study O'Hare's methods, marveling at how one man's determination reshaped naval strategy in the middle of humanity's darkest war. His name is carved into the annals of aviation, not just as a war hero, but as a visionary who bridged the gap between bravery and technology. Edward "Butch" O'Hare may have vanished into the night sky, but his light continues to guide the generations that followed, pilots, innovators and dreamers who dare to see beyond the horizon.